And here at the Warwick Farm circuit, the cars are on the grid for the Touring Car Division 1. This race over 10 laps or 22.5 miles, and we have some of the top touring car drivers in Australia. A very good clash here between them, such as Ian Gagan, Bob Jane, Neil Allen and Brian Foley. In fact, in the practice laps, Brian Foley, driving the Morris Cooper S, recorded 1:45.6. He's in car 8. Car 3 is Neil Allen, the Ford Mustang V8, 1:46.4, and number 2, Bob Jane, Ford Mustang V8, 1:46.6. Now, the great clash here between the Mustangs, in fact there are 3 of them in the race. Also Ian Gagan, driving car number 1, did 1:49.4. So it's a David and Goliath combination with Gagan, Jane and Allen opposing that tiny tot of Brian Foley's, and there it is, the Morris Cooper S. Now look at the size of this vehicle compared to the 2 beside it. The big Mustangs, the Ford Mustangs of Neil Allen and Bob Jane. The 3rd Mustang in the race is back on about the 4th line of the grid. But there are 7 or 8 Morris Coopers, and that's Ian Gagan's Mustang now. He recorded 1:49.4 in practice. That doesn't seem to be the true form for Ian. We'll see how he goes in the race. His car may not be performing as well as he expected. And now there'll be a minute or 2 to go before they get away on this race. This race will be over 10 laps, 22.5 miles. The sedan cars are averaging round 76 miles an hour, almost 77 miles an hour. 76.70 is the average time for Brian Foley's practice time of 1:45.6. And just looking through to the records, I think Brian Foley is the record holder for this distance. In fact, he is. And there's the 1-minute sign going now. So the pit marshals, the pit officials leave the area. The drivers are in their cars. They're getting ready now for this race to start. Less than 60 seconds to go now. The tremendous interest here is how the little cars, the Morris Coopers, handle the tight circuits, and can they get away from the big Mustangs who have obviously more power in the straight. About 30 seconds to go. On the front line, number 8 Foley, number 3 Allen and number 2 Jane. Also to watch in about 3 lines back is number 1, the big white one of Ian Gagan. 10 seconds. And away they go in the middle. It's car number 3, that's Neil Allen, the Ford Mustang, getting away. Look at the tiny Morris Cooper of Brian Foley's in 2nd place. But there's the little one of number 8 getting through to challenge Neil Allen and Bob Jane. They're coming now to turn into the straight, and the 2 Mustangs certainly got the better of the start as they go into the fast part of the course, and this is where the Mustangs can get away. But on the tighter side, after they come around Creek Corner, you'll see Brian Foley, who's a remarkably skillful driver in this small classic car in the Morris Cooper. He'll be catching up on them if he can. This is the real battle now, and we see that Ian Gagan has moved up into 3rd place. So the Mustangs are running 1st, 2nd and 3rd. It's Neil Allen, Bob Jane in the darker Mustang, and then Ian Gagan in car 1, and there's the tiny tot Brian Foley, car number 8, the Morris Cooper S, back in 4th place. So it's going to be a race between the big fellows and the little one just clutching at their heels. Cars number 3, 2 and 1 are running 1st, 2nd and 3rd, and car 8 is running in 4th place. We're coming now over the northern crossing, approaching the causeway. About 2/3 of the way, the water of the causeway in the foreground. And here's a change of order. Yes, car 1, Ian Gagan, has moved into 2nd place, I'd say. Yes, it's car 1 in 2nd place behind car 3. That's Neil Allen. So it's 3, 1 and 2 in car numbers. That's Neil Allen out in front, Ian Gagan 2nd and Bob Jane 3rd. So the official practice time of Ian Gagan wasn't a really serious indication of the skill of this driver and the performance of the car. And you see 2, that's Bob Jane with Brian Foley coming at him for 3rd place. They're coming into the straight now to complete the 1st lap. And it's 3, 1, 2 and 8, the 4 cars, and they're moving right away from the rest of the field. And it's going to be a tremendous race out in front with these 3 big Mustangs and this tiny Morris Cooper S. coming round for the second time to the top of the Hume Straight, and those two white cars, Neil Allen in front of Ian Gagan. Let's see the gap then of tipping the dust was Bob Jane and Brian Foley right at the heels of Bob Jane. Big cars getting tremendous power down this straight, and they come down into the braking area. They've got to slow right down to about 30 miles an hour to make this very difficult right-hand turn as they go around Creek Corner, and here they come together. It's Gagan having a go at Allen in front now, and you see the next two have dropped back slightly. That's Jane and Foley. But Gagan is putting the pressure right on the man in front. That's Neil Allen. Both cars have equal performance. Ford Mustangs V8. In practice, Neil Allen 146.4 and Ian Gagan a slow 149.4. Well, very obviously, as they come over the northern crossing for the second time, there is not 3 seconds per lap difference in these two cars. Now, let's watch the body sway as they come round this U-turn at the causeway, and there's Gagan going through, and Ian Gagan has hit the front. Ian Gagan of Liverpool, the local driver, has gone ahead of car number 3, Neil Allen. Now, right across to the right-hand side, they move across to the left now for their turn at Polo Corner. They're along the approach. They accelerate now to get along to Ledger Straight, to come down the final straight for the first time, or the second time now, to complete lap 2. But Ian Gagan has raced away, and Ian Gagan, who started well back in the grid, has now moved out to lead from Neil Allen. Bob Jane is in third place. It looks like Brian Foley. Brian Foley has moved past Bob Jane. Let's look at the cars as they come through. Yes, that's number 2 going through now. Yes, Bob Jane is back in 4th place, and Brian Foley in the Morris Cooper S is up in 3rd place behind the 2 white Mustangs, and you see the gap now. But Foley gains an advantage on these bigger cars when they get on the northern side of the course. That's round the S's and the tight area through the causeway. Now in the straight, this is where the bigger cars would get some form of advantage, but Brian Foley would have his foot right to the floor coming down the straight. Into the braking area now, it's Ian Gagan still holding that lead round Creek Corner, that tight bend. They're only going about 30 miles an hour, perhaps a little bit more around there. But Gagan accelerating away now, and Allen sitting on behind him. Allen had the lead from the start. Gagan has moved away from him now, and looking back at Foley, well, the gap to Foley has dropped, increased quite a bit as we see them now. So it's the 2 big Mustangs having a great dice out in front between the 2. They're over the northern crossing for the 3rd time. I can see Foley just came through the back of the picture then. He's clearly in 3rd place, ahead of Bob Jane, who's in car 2. Now these 4 drivers would be 4 of the outstanding sedan car drivers in Australia. They've had many flashes before. Over the years, they're all drivers of great experience. And now here's the turn at Polo Corner, and you see that the different line taken by the cars. In fact, Brian Foley is adopting that same line. But notice how the Morris Cooper goes round the corners just a little bit easier, and he can manoeuvre under this small car on these corners easier than the bigger Mustangs. So Foley in 3rd place as the 2 Mustangs come down into the straight, and they're going now to complete lap 3. So at the end of lap 3, with 7 laps to go, you see that Foley now is in clear 3rd place, and 4 seconds away behind him we have car number 2, which is Bob Jane, and then car number 11, which was P. Barnes, also in a Morris Cooper S, followed by B.A. Jones, also driving a Morris Cooper S. So the order of cars is car number 1, Ian Gagan. Then we have number 3, Neil Allen. Number 8, Brian Foley. Number 2, Bob Jane. Number 11, P. Barnes. And number 12, B.A. Jones. Now the 2 big Mustangs are on lap 4, and here's a great go between them. It's Neil Allen having a go at Gagan again. See changes of order here, because Allen is certainly will not be overcome by the reputation of Gagan. In fact, they both have great reputations, and Allen will make his attempt here to get past Gagan again. But the pressure on these 2 front cars might give the little fellow behind a great chance of Brian Foley. And just looking at some lap times coming across, yes, officially after 3 laps the order was car 1, Gagan, car, and he was 1 second ahead of Allen, in 4 seconds back to Foley, and a further 4 seconds back to Jane. So it's car 1, Ian Gagan, car 3, Neil Allen, car 8, Brian Foley, and car 2, Bob Jane. The margins 1 second after 3 laps between 1st and 2nd, 4 seconds more to Foley in 3rd place, and 4 seconds more to Jane. The first 4 cars separated by 9 seconds. This looks like they're coming round towards the end of the 9th lap. Now what's going to happen here? Ian Gagan's pulling into the pits. Ian Gagan is in the pits. There's some trouble there. So Gagan might be out of this race. Gagan in the pits, and we have a change of order. Neil Allen has gone to the front, and in second place is Brian Foley in the Morris Cooper S, and in third place is Bob Jane. So Gagan, after starting on about the 4th line of the grid, went through to take up first place. He held that lead for about 2 or 3 laps, and now at the end of the 4th lap, Gagan is in the pits, obviously out of the race. The leader now is Neil Allen in car number 3, also the Ford Mustang, and the tiny tot Brian Foley in the Morris Cooper S has moved into second place, with Bob Kane in car number 2 back in third place. But Ian Gagan is going back into the race, is it? Now is the pits are in the race. Now he's into the pits. So yes. Ian Gagan is a withdrawal. So it's definitely now Neil Allen in front of Brian Foley, with Bob Jane in third place. With me now is Bill Bryce, and what a clash is this, Bill, between these giant Mustangs and the tiny Morris Cooper S.
Yes, this seems to be old Brian Foley's way of life now, battling up against these Mustangs. He brought the car to New Zealand for a couple of races over there for the New Zealand Grand Prix meeting, and there's a lot of smoke or dust coming out there as they're clipping up through the edges. But and he had some great battles over there with the New Zealanders. He did extremely well indeed. Neil Allen, I saw him drive last week. A very forceful driver, I feel. One that's very got a sort of a big right foot, let's say. He really puts it down. Could be in a little bit of a disadvantage once again, but doesn't seem to worry Ian Gagan, this left-hand drive business around this very tight circuit. But here's a fine shot of Foley. Brian Foley from New South Wales going extremely well in the Little Mini, and he's really hanging it onto the door handles as he sets sail down along through here. The car immaculately prepared. Look at that. He's really getting that rear wheel. This is a mini trait, this, where you see that right rear wheel lift up off the ground. And here he goes again, a change of direction. Making it look very easy indeed, but this car travelling very fast. As you can see the way, look at it coming through the corner there, really powering it on. In Britain, Norman, when the two works drivers get going, and these John Rhodes and John Handley, they really hang them on, and the smoke gushes up from the front wheels as they're a front-wheel drive car. And here they are into Creek Corner.
And the official margin after 5 laps between the two was only 1.1 seconds. Third place is number 2, Bob Jane, also in the Ford Mustang, and he's followed closely by the 2 Morris Cooper S's, number 11 P. Barnes and number 12 B.A. Jones. But these two out in front have quite a big lead over the third car, and tremendous interest for the huge crowd here in this David Goliath battle between car number 3, the big Ford Mustang, and the tiny tot Morris Cooper S. And in practice, Brian Foley had the faster time. He recorded 1:45.6 to Neil Allen's 1:46.4.
Yes, that gives some proof to it, but it's Neil Allen now. But look at the rear wheel. It's the outside wheel there of Brian Foley's car, lifting right off. So he's three-wheeling this little wee Mini around. And here he goes. He's setting it up now. He's got quite a job to get past that big Mustang. As they set sail into Apollo, there's Allen clipping the edges. Foley using the full power now, and he's right onto it. The Little Mini, front-wheel drive, 1300 cc's.
And look at Brian's habit. He does this all the time. He gets to a corner, he'll look right out the window. It's a characteristic he has. He takes these corners. We might have restricted vision on the right-hand side, and he actually sticks his head at time out the window, particularly on Creek Corner, to look right down at his front.
Sorry, Norman, but just on the change of direction there, you see the car come round very viciously indeed. This is the limit slip diff working, of course, as the weight goes. Oh, he spun it. Yes, he was going very nicely held. Look at this. He's still got it on the island, still on the track, sorting things out now in a big way. No, he's out of the car. Something's obviously wrong. I think something is probably broken in it, else he would have kept going. It was a very nice spin. You can see the car spinning in its own length there as he set sail. Things very wild down there now. The yellow flags will be waved, the caution flag, and the marshals are running out to help Brian Foley. But that was bad luck indeed. Something is obviously broken. Well, through goes car number 2 on the screen, and this is Bob Jane in the Mustang V8. Quite a way back now from Neil Allen, and he'll have to take up the chase. Car number 2, the Mustangs dominating Australian, as everywhere else in the world. This type of regulations for saloon car racing, very fast indeed. In fact, it's quite a pity to see the retirement of Ian Gagan.
Well, this may well be the survival of the fittest. We've seen 2 of the top 4 we've drawn so far. 1 to the pits and then spin by Brian Foley. So who's going to last the distance? Is Bob Jane, who dropped back to 4th place, suddenly finds himself running 2nd. Now, the important thing is Neil Allen, how's he going out in front? And knowing what happened to the car behind him, we see that he might have just clipped the fence there.
Yes, I think so, Norman. I think he just clipped it. If not, he was very, very close to it. Here's the leader, Neil Allen, coming through with the front looking a little battered. There's the stoplights going on. He's taking 2 stabs at the braking. You can see the car coming up on the suspension travel and setting down. It sits down on the tail as he puts the power in, and they're still pushing Brian Foley off the circuit. As away he goes now, they're getting him out of the way, as through clipping the dust indeed. In fact, I think one of the markers there was Neil Allen. Coming through there very, very quickly indeed. Out of the shadows he comes now and really hurtles it down along this straight. There's a fine shot of it going in under the braking area now. You'll see it swinging around to the right in the very, very tricky creek corner, setting it up. As you can see, look at the turn there you have to do. You have to come out, then get it all the weight of the car, turn onto the outside, then back onto the other side. As here it is, once again, lifting up, setting it up through the corner, very nicely indeed.
Quite remarkable, these big Mustangs, the tremendous pressure on the suspension and on the tyres, because the body sway, it's like watching a hula dancer. The way they carve right across from one side to the other, particularly in this area of the course as they approach the causeway.
Yes, they're very, very much tied down, Norman. The suspension is very, very tight, very hard. But as you can still see, the picture we're getting is very good indeed, because it's showing all the stresses going on there on those outside hubs as the car goes through this terrific, the power's on there, you see. You come off the brakes and back onto the power, you see the stoplights on, the nose is dipping, cutting the apex of the corner. Good style indeed. He's very, very comfortable, I would say, at this stage. And there's the nose lifting again as it really puts the power on through the back wheels. Big wide wheels on these Mustangs, as big as the single-seater racing cars actually. And here it is, flashing into view, nice line through the corner, and right on the power. You can hear the V8 echoing out through now as through he goes, car number 3, Neil Allen.
And his gap over the second car, which is Bob Jane, well, it's probably about 300 or 400 yards now, something like 15 seconds. Due to the excitement with Brian Foley, we've just miscounted. We're watching the park of the course down here with a black and white flag. I think there'll be less than 2 laps to go. This may well be the last lap, but I think there are maybe 2 laps to go because of the spin there. We just didn't keep check of the exact number of laps, but the leader is giving a great exhibition now, Neil Allen, and he's not slackening down at all because he's maintaining his lead. That looks like the second car just up in the straight now. That's a fair way. That straight's a mile long, and our camera showing that mile-long straight. Well, half a mile is a long way to be behind with only a couple of laps to go. It's the darker car is Bob Jane, the Ford Mustang, also car number 2, and this is him now in second place. But of course the leader, car number 3, Neil Allen, it would be a quarter of a mile to half a mile ahead.
Doesn't seem to be handling as good as Allen's car. There's Jane with a wow, he's really had the tail out that time. Really trying to get, he's just catching it. In fact, if you look very carefully into the car itself, you can see him working very furiously there, off the power and getting the correction. Here's a fine shot. Look into the car and you can see Neil Allen there, right in the cockpit, working away furiously, just clipping through the edges, and he'll come out now for the right-hander. There he is, setting it out a little late on his entry into the corner. You see where he's getting it, he's hitting the apex of the corner about 10 yards too deep. He should be over on the other side there a little quicker, and he can come through and make a neater line through the corner indeed. But still, he's getting through them very rapid indeed as he comes around into the main street now. Accelerating down through here, the nose lifting once again. There he is, changing gears to go into the right-hander. No braking that time, so he must be easing it off just a little bit. Not trying, doesn't have to try as hard as possible. Good shot, coming through, using right out to the left hand to go through the right-hander. There he is, swinging into at the back of the picture there, swooping up past some of the slower minis, and he'll gobble them all up with that big nose of the Mustang. Comes on, this is a good shot coming down the corner now. You can filling up the screen is Neil Allen and the Mustang.
And the clerk of the course has taken out the checkered flag, so that suggests that this is the last lap of this 10-lap race over 22 and a half miles. So the checkered flag is out as car number 3, Neil Allen, the Ford Mustang V8, has about half a lap to go. He's going over near the northern crossing, the second of the 2 crossings across the race course on this Warwick Farm circuit. He's approaching that now, and he's got those two slower ones up ahead. Will he catch them? He probably will before the lap is over. And now there's the northern crossing, so he comes into the causeway, sweeps round Polo Corner, up to Ledger and down the straight to finish the race. The officials are waiting down here with the checkered flag out, waiting to receive him, and has to keep his car going. He's a long way in front. Second placing at the moment is number 2, Bob Jane, also in the Ford Mustang V8.
Yes, well, there he is. He's looking for a gap through two. Now, those white stripes on the back denote that these are newcomers to international motor racing or newcomers to racing, and they spread apart to let Alan go through. He had to take his choice there. Possibly a little dangerous manoeuvre if these drivers didn't know he was behind, but obviously when they split, they did see him, and through he comes now, and he will get the checkered flag now, down the finishing straight. So there's the checkered flag, a welcome sight indeed to any driver who's leading through on a race, and we're looking now for the second car, and it's just coming round into the straight, and the checkered flag will be held out for Bob Jane going through in car number 2. Third car we're looking for now. Coming into view, the whole field being flagged off, but it would be Meehan, it would be Trevor Meehan in a Morris Cooper, who goes extremely quick too.
So the official result then, or the unofficial result, which should be official, of this touring car race Division 1. First was car number 3, Neil Allen, the Ford Mustang V8. Second, car number 2, Bob Jane, also in the Ford Mustang V8. And third was car number 14, Terry Meehan, in the Morris Cooper S. That was the result of the touring car race for Division 1 cars here at Warwick Farm.